Despite containing an incredibly wide variety of characters and groups pulled from all corners of the Marvel Universe, one major area that the MCU is still lacking in is villain team-ups. I mean, come on, it's been almost 15 years and we still don't even have a Sinister Six, though not for lack of trying on Sony's part. It's a shame, especially when there have been so many cool and powerful evil organizations in the comics, like the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants, the Thunderbolts, the Grapplers, and more. Let's take a look at the 15 strongest Marvel villain teams and figure out just how these no-good alliances stack up against each other.
Shouldn't we have a league of our own?
Hey, get out of here. Who let this guy in? Starting our list off strong, we've got the Cabal in the #1 spot. The first version of the group was formed by Norman Osborn, who seek to control every major area of the Marvel Universe. He recruited Emma Frost for her status as a mutant, Doctor Doom for his scientific expertise, Loki for their use of sorcery, the Hood for his control over the criminal underworld, and Namor for his previous alliances with Earth's heroes. Those are some of the Marvel Universe's absolute heaviest hitters, and they really should have been unstoppable. So what was it that led to their downfall? Well, it was actually the same person who formed the group, Norman Osborn. Despite the fact that he was allying with a bunch of terrorists and would-be conquerors, they all agreed that he was their biggest threat, thanks to his obvious instability. The members all conspired together behind Osborn's back, preparing for the Cabal's eventual downfall, which, as they predicted, ended up happening thanks to his actions. During a recent cataclysm in which worlds from multiple dimensions started crashing into the Earth,
this is starting to sound like a bad comic book plot.
A second version of the Cabal formed that was even more powerful than the first, with characters like Thanos, Maximus, and Black Swan among its ranks. This version of the group slaughtered entire planets and were only defeated after being betrayed by Namor. Though neither version of the Cabal lasted very long, the group as a whole is undoubtedly the most powerful assembly of villains the Marvel Universe has ever seen, and I shudder to think of what more they could have accomplished if they'd stuck around longer.
I'm shaking in my custom baby seal leather boots.
While the X-Men are dedicated to creating a world where humans and mutants can coexist peacefully, the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants aim to subjugate humanity and establish mutant kind as the planet's true rulers. There have been a number of mutant supremacist groups that have terrorized the Marvel Universe, but none have been as expansive and as driven as the Brotherhood. Over the years, there have been almost 20 different incarnations of the group, led by characters like Magneto, Mystique, and even Professor X. The one thing that's allowed the Brotherhood to keep coming back time and time again is their shared hatred of humanity. This core belief is much more impactful than something like a desire to get rich or to destroy the world, and it makes the group far more interesting for it. With the combined powers of its various members, the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants is truly a force to be reckoned with. But luckily for us puny humans, as long as they're around to cause trouble, the X-Men will always be there to save the day. Hopefully. The Masters of Evil are one of Marvel's most renowned villainous groups, and for good reason. Back in the Avengers #6, way back in 1964, Baron Zemo formed this group to take on Earth's mightiest heroes. Similarly to how the Avengers lineup changes semi-regularly, the Masters of Evil has a pretty frequently rotating lineup, with each new version of the group usually containing completely different members to its previous one. One thing that's really cool about the Masters of Evil is that they're not really restricted to one specific hero. Once again, this is thanks to the fact that the Avengers have had so many different members and allies throughout their existence. Because of this, the Masters have fought heroes like the Guardians of the Galaxy and the Superior Spider-Man, while their membership has included well-known villains like Dr. Octopus, MODOK, and Ultron, along with some lesser-known foes like Egghead and Oddball. What, was Big Wheel not available? You ever have, like, an insect problem in your house that you just can't get rid of no matter how hard you try? Like an ant infestation? That's basically HYDRA. HYDRA is the ants of the Marvel Universe. Well, I guess technically Ant-Man is the ant-adjacent... save me, weird Ant-Man commercial.
Ants! Ants! Ant-Man!
HYDRA's been around since ancient times, but the most well-known version of the group is the green-suited terrorist organization dedicated to taking over the world. They're probably the most iconic villainous team Marvel's got, in large part thanks to their frequent appearances in the MCU, and they're involved in almost every corner of the Marvel Universe. Their threat level varies quite heavily depending on who from the group you're dealing with, and they usually end up as nothing more than fodder for the Avengers to beat up. However, if you catch them on a good day, then HYDRA might just end up completely rewriting reality and turning one of your favorite heroes evil. Just casual supervillain stuff. No matter what superhero they go up against, no matter what crazy new status quo Marvel implements, you can guarantee that HYDRA will eventually come back, more persistent than ever. It's like the Greek myth. Cut off one head, 2 more will take its place. You gotta have a very specific personality to work for a guy like Thanos. Like, for example, you just have to enjoy killing people all the time. And you gotta be dramatic enough to call your group the Black Order. That sounds like a rock and roll band made up of theater kids. The Black Order are Thanos' most powerful soldiers, essentially his own personal hit squad that he uses to enforce his tyranny. You might remember them from Avengers Infinity War, or not, because they barely got any character development.
Boom. Roasted.
They're fearless warriors who have conquered multiple worlds for their master, but yet they just can't seem to beat those pesky Avengers. They've also had multiple falling outs with Thanos, taking up work for characters like the Grandmaster and Hela, but they always end up making their way back to the Jolly Purple Giant. It's just like how I always buy a bunch of groceries at the store to help myself eat better, and then stop for fast food on the way home. The Intelligencia are the greatest villainous minds of the Marvel Universe, all under one roof. We've got villains like Doctor Doom, the Leader, the Red Ghost, and the Trapster, the guy formerly known as Paste Pot Pete. Hey, he makes glue real good, I guess. Similarly to the Cabal, the Intelligencia is another group that feels like they should be absolutely unbeatable. With that much brainpower on their side, no one should be able to outthink them. The problem is its members are too smart for their own good, and with brains that big come equally massive egos. While they've had some major successes, like turning General Thunderbolt Ross into the Red Hulk, their master plans always fail because they just think that they're too mighty for anyone to even dare to bother them. Because of this, they never expect something small, like a spy in their midst or a betrayal from one of their own members. Something where, by the time it's happened, it's a little too late to think your way out of it. This next one is almost a little bit too real. Roxxon Energy is one of the biggest corporations in the Marvel Universe, and they're primarily focused on the refinement and distribution of oil. Unlike many of the other evil groups on this list, Roxxon's primary goal isn't to kill a bunch of people or to take over the world. Instead, they are motivated by pure, unadulterated greed. In other words, they're just like real corporations. Roxxon wants to continue making money by any means possible, whether it be opening up subsidiary companies like a grocery store and a burger chain, or by hiring supervillains to accomplish their dirty work. They've crossed paths with dozens of superheroes, but none of them have been able to bring them down for good. While Roxxon Energy may not be participating in any globe-shaking villainous schemes, what they're really up to may ultimately end up being just as bad. The Hellfire, am I allowed to say that on YouTube? Club is an incredibly secretive social club that is made up of the world's most powerful and wealthy citizens. For centuries, they've manipulated major events in world history, including various wars, the creation of the Sentinels, and the birth of the Dark Phoenix. The group's actions are controlled by their chess-themed inner circle, and over the years, a number of mutants, including Sebastian Shaw and Emma Frost, have found themselves in high-ranking positions within this elite group. As a result of this, the Hellfire Club has frequently come into conflict with the X-Men. Unlike the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants, the Hellfire Club is not a mutant-only group, despite the fact that they're primarily X-Men foes. The only real qualifications for the group are being wealthy and power-hungry, and their only real goal is to maintain their control over the world and get more rich. Interestingly enough, the Hellfire Club was a real-life group in the 1700s, consisting of a bunch of high society types who just used it as an excuse to party and drink a bunch. I like to think I would have been invited to join. After all, YouTube personality is the most noble occupation in all the land. Spider-Man has one of the greatest rogues galleries in all of Marvel, so it only makes sense that they would come together to form one of the most iconic supervillain teams of all time. With a colorful collection of members ranging from Dr. Octopus to the Chameleon to Boomerang to Swarm the Man Made Out of Bees, the Sinister Six has gone through quite a few different phases. Their main objective is usually to take down the friendly neighborhood webhead, but they've also set their sights on loftier goals, like world domination and stealing a little kid's action figure. It makes more sense in context. Now at this point, we're all well aware of Sony Pictures' many attempts to try and bring the Sinister Six to the big screen. Right now, it seems like they're making yet another try after the Amazing Spider-Man franchise fizzled out and they, I guess, lost interest in Michael Mando's Scorpion. A lot of people were expecting the Six to show up in Spider-Man No Way Home, and some pieces of concept art have seemingly confirmed that that was originally the plan, but it ended up not happening for reasons probably related to real-life filming constraints. But now, things are back on track and the Sinister steam engine is going full speed ahead. And with such iconic characters as Venom and Morbius on the docket for their newest incarnation of the team. There's no possible way Sony can fail again, right guys? Right? Imagine the state that the MCU would be in if Norman Osborn had been the founder of the Avengers instead of Nick Fury. If nothing else, it would be a lot more entertaining, that's for sure.
Norman's on sabbatical, honey.
During the Dark Reign event, which started in 2008, Norman became head of a new government agency called Hammer, and put together his own team of Avengers. This team was made up of a number of villains who had adopted heroic identities, including Bullseye, Moonstone, and John Walker, and Norman used them as part of an elaborate plan to invade Asgard. Despite wearing the costumes of Earth's mightiest heroes, Osborn's Dark Avengers were no match for the real deal, and ended up defeated along with their boss. Several hints have been dropped as of late about the Dark Avengers' potential arrival to the MCU, with Valentina Allegra de Fontaine seemingly taking over Norman's role as the group's founder. So far, Val's recruited John Walker and Yelena Belova, but for what purpose we don't know yet. Hey, maybe she's just trying to start an edgy rock and roll band to go up against the Black Order. Ninjas. You love them, I love them, 10-year-old kids certainly love them, and apparently so do comic book writers. On DC's side, we've got the League of Assassins, and for Marvel, we've got the Hand. These guys are active all around the world, operating as an organized crime group that frequently undertake mercenary contracts for the various criminals of the Marvel Universe. Their main enemies are the Chaste, a rival martial arts group led by the blind sensei Stick, and whose members include Daredevil and Elektra. More than anything else, the Hand wish to amass enough power to destroy their enemies, and they frequently use dark magic to further their goals. They're obsessed with Daredevil thanks to his role as Stick's protege, having even previously coerced the Man Without Fear into being their leader. This obsession was reflected in their appearances in the various Marvel Netflix series. And following Charlie Cox's reappearance as Matt Murdock in Spider-Man No Way Home, there's a distinct chance we could see the Hand pop back up in the MCU sometime in the near future. Also, the Hand were what inspired the creation of Shredder and the Foot Clan from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. So, that's cool, I guess. In 1997, a new group of Marvel heroes called the Thunderbolts burst onto the scene, seemingly ready to defend the world after the recent disappearances of the Avengers and the Fantastic Four. However, in a shocking reveal, it turned out that the Thunderbolts were actually the latest incarnation of the Masters of Evil, who disguised themselves as heroes in order to gain the public's trust and infiltrate both the government and the superhero community.
What a twist!
Despite their lineup consisting of a number of hardcore villains, several of the Thunderbolts ended up discovering that they really enjoyed being heroes, and defecting to the side of good for real. In recent years, the Thunderbolts have been reimagined as a Suicide Squad-esque government task force, with one version of the group eventually evolving into the Dark Avengers. That's all well and good, but the version of the group that I will always love is the power-hungry masterminds who end up sabotaging their own plans with their desire to become heroes. You know how a lot of people compare superhero stuff to pro wrestling? Well, the Grapplers are the best of both worlds. They started out as an all-female wrestling league who were recruited by the Roxxon Corporation to serve as a group of villainous enforcers. Despite their various defeats, the ladies have continued to have each other's back over the years, even as they branch out to other teams like the Thunderbolts and the Masters of Evil. The Grapplers are one of the few all-female villain groups in Marvel Comics, and they can kick just as much butt as their male counterparts. But they've never gotten a real chance to shine. They usually only appear as muscle for other, more powerful villains, and Screaming Mimi is really the only one of them to be well known outside of the group. Also, some of their members may be better off forgotten, like the overweight wrestler named Butterball, or the Japanese fighter named Sushi. Yeah, something tells me we won't be seeing those characters pop up in the MCU. While they may not be at the level of the Sinister Six or the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants, the Frightful Four are no slouches. The villain known as the Wizard formed this group back in the 60s, and since then he's been there to lead every successive incarnation of the group against the Fantastic Four. Wizard's primarily motivated by a desire to prove that he's smarter than Reed Richards, and as we've seen countless times so far during this video, an ego can be a truly dangerous thing. Especially when he's a living planet, huh?
I thought my jokes were bad.
While the Frightful Four have had some really powerful members and have access to some crazy advanced technology, they've always been kind of held back by Wizard's blinding hatred of the Fantastic Four. They'd probably do pretty well for themselves if they weren't constantly trying to match wits with some of the smartest superheroes of all time. Our final entry here is the Maggia, who are essentially Marvel's off-brand version of the real-life Mafia. Now, just because they're coming in at the end of the list doesn't mean they're weak by any means. In fact, they're one of the biggest crime syndicates in the Marvel Universe. What keeps the Maggia from true greatness is their insistence on adhering to the old ways of crime, before the super freaks started flooding the market. Despite the fact that they frequently use highly advanced technology and hire super criminals to do odd jobs for them, Maggia leaders like Silvermane and Hammerhead just can't let go of the good old days when gangsters chomped on big shagaj and talked like this, she? And because of this, the Maggia will always be one step behind their fellow villainous groups. And thus we come to the conclusion of another epic ranking. I'm Matt Sonic. I lovingly handcrafted this video for your viewing pleasure, and now I'd like to hear from you. Let me know in the comments if you agree or disagree with any of my rankings, and make sure you leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you enjoyed this video. Thank you for watching.